Truth and stories gotta collide. Alibis get swept aside. I got proof that can't be denied. The data don't lie, people do. Waves crashing, secrets in the tide. Facts and numbers side by side. Through the chaos I will abide. The data don't lie, people do. Look at the records, feel the vibe. Digits and bytes come alive. I stand tall with nothing to hide. The data don't lie, people do. Friends may twist and tongues may tie. Plausible tales shape the sky. In the end you can verify. The data don't lie, people do. It's in the matrix beyond the eye. Hard truth that's flying by. Evidence you can't defy. The data don't lie, people do. Look at the records, feel the vibe. Digits and bytes come alive. I stand tall with nothing to hide. The data don't lie, people do. The vibe, digits and bytes come alive. I stand tall with nothing to hide. The data don't lie, people do.
Hello, boys and girls. Hang on, let me turn some noise off here at the background. It's going to be a lot noisier than it should be. Okie dokie. Hello, all. It's not another podcaster's music. It's mine. I wrote it myself. I actually had AI write it, but we did plug in the lyrics and stuff. So I can guarantee it's mine. So I wanted to open the show just with a with a downer. If you are on the replay crew and you got it in your head that somehow you can't press the fast forward button and that somehow making a complaint is a lot less energy than pressing the fast forward button because you don't like the intro music, then you're going to get yourself muted so nobody can see your comments ever again. So that's my complaint. Moving on. What news do we have? Okay, let's go to some captions first. Let's do this first. All right, so we're just going to cover a couple of news items, like just because I put breaking news up the top for the fun of it. And that gives people time to get their notifications and get the cup of tea ready and whatever. Plus there's a lot going on. Like there's a lot going on. So thanks, Steph. So let me say hello to everybody who is in the house right now. Starting from the top. Hello, Alex. I saw you were here early and impatient. I saw that note. And Quinley, hello. Welcome to the channel. Nicola, welcome back. Denise Pelton, thanks for joining us. Princey and Michelle. I got super mods in the house. Hello, AH. Joanna, for those who don't know, is from Massachusetts, the very place this story comes out of. And so she is personally affected by some of the things that we're talking about today. Who else have we got? We have Strong Leg in the house. Hey, how's it going? Denise, thanks for joining us. Mitzi. All right, so where are we? Therese is also in the house. Hello. Well is also from Massachusetts. Thanks for joining us. So, Sunday's Child, hello. All right, so we are at the bottom of the list now. I got you, Unwell. Thanks for joining us. Let me press the right buttons here. So, in the last live stream, I told you all about one of my favorite law tubers. Rat House Media is also in the house. Welcome for joining us. Kyle is also here. Thanks for joining us. And Colleen as well. Trauma Llama. Good on yous. So one of my favorite law tubers, he didn't cover the Karen Reid trial because he was busy covering some of the news coming out of Dalton. So he was very wrapped up with that. But he just recently, in the last couple of days, found out he has a brain tumor. And so I just wanted to quickly talk about the shenanigans regarding his brain tumor. So for those who don't know, he did cover the Karen Reid, Amber Heard, Johnny Depp trial. And so he amassed a bit of an audience who are pro Amber Heard that hated him, and so it got a little out of control, that whole situation. And now we find, let me share this screen. Let's go over here and no, don't do that. Stop it. Trying some new toys, so excuse me for not driving so good. Can we all see that? Yes. So basically, need to turn that off. Hang on, let me get the screen thing off. Where is that? Turn that off so you can see what's going on here. So basically, yeah, someone stole his brain tumor scan and called it his own brain tumor scan. So that's pretty rude. So if anyone is out there asking for money, claiming that they've got a brain tumor and they're using this picture, just be aware, don't give your money to them because they're frauds. So Nate is awesome. He's yeah, he got busted, Princey. He is awesome. So I do recommend. So what LawTube is trying to do, and all his friends are basically trying to get everyone to go over there and sub so he gets his million by the time he comes out of surgery. So I believe his surgery is today sometime. I could be wrong, but I think his surgery is today sometime. They keep postponing it. They're trying to work out what's the best way to deal with it. They keep bringing in new specialists. So I think it's today he's going into surgery. So if anyone's asking for money for Nate's surgery or claiming that it's their brain tumor and they want the money, don't go and fall for the scam, because that's what it is. It's just a scam. Big scam. So that's the first thing I wanted to cover today. What's next on my list? Let's have a look. Over here. All right. Brian Walsh has pled guilty. Let me find the Brian Walsh story. It's over here. Share this tab. They're also in the middle of trial, jury selection. So he's pleaded guilty to some charges, but not others. All right. So he's still going to trial for the murder charge, but it's a little confusing how he thinks he's going to get free trial on the murder charge if he's pled guilty to these other things. So this is weird, but let's get to the news article. This page is being stupid. What is wrong with ya? Come on. Here we go. Let's have a listen to this first. And
to understand, sir, that you are pleading guilty to the following two indictments. Indictment 002, which charges willfully misleading a police investigation.
All right, let me just get control of what's going on here. This web page is ridiculous. Get the volume up so you can hear it.
Sir, that you are pleading guilty to the following two indictments. Indictment 002, which charges willfully misleading a police investigation, a criminal investigation, in violation of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 268, and in Indictment 003, you are pleading guilty to, while not being lawfully authorized by proper authorities, willfully conveying away a human body or the remains thereof in violation of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 272, Section 71. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
And have you talked to your attorneys about each of these two indictments?
Yes, Your Honor.
Has counsel explained elements of each of those two indictments that the Commonwealth would have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand each indictment?
I'm sorry.
Do you understand each indictment?
Yes, Your Honor.
And to defense counsel, have you explained the elements of each of the two offenses to your client?
Yes, Your Honor.
So there it is. That's what he's pled guilty to, all right? So 2 charges, lying to the police and interfering with the body. So how's he going to get out of murder charges if he's pled guilty to that? He's obstruction of justice and interfering with a corpse is those are pretty big. But I just have to wonder how much of that they can bring in now to the murder trial. If they have to leave all of that out of the murder trial, then he might well get away with murder. So it's interesting because I'm seeing lawyers posting about it saying that he's probably going to have to leave it out because he's pled guilty to them. So there would be, I think it's 401B evidence, like which is usually excluded from trial. So yeah. So that's the first bit of news. He pled guilty to 2 of 3 charges. So that's crap. So next on the list is yes, Nicola. Some are getting off. So if the jury finds out, right, Steph? But how's the jury going to find out if it's not allowed to come into evidence? Because it would be considered 401. Is it 401B or I can't remember if I'm actually saying it right, but I'm pretty sure that they can't bring in evidence of prior bad acts or things that they've already pled guilty to. So I think it's 401B. I could be wrong. Yeah, absolutely. It'll be partly to do with that. But if they can't have the evidence that he hid her body and her body parts and all of that evidence that led them to charging him, then they're probably not going to convict him. I think it's actually pretty low chance of them convicting him. I don't know. Motive? It could come in as motive. It probably has to come in. If it's going to come in, I would assume, and I'm not a lawyer, so maybe we need to get a lawyer on to ask, but I would assume it probably would come in as the reasons that they charged him, like he did all of these things that indicated he was hiding body parts and stuff in different locations. So in the probable cause sort of area, I'm not sure. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure. There's a lot of things to take into account, and I'm not a lawyer. So, all right. So, let me get that one off the screen. It's done. It's screwing with everything, making shit behave weirdly in the browser. Yeah. That's what I'm hearing from the other lawyers anyway. So it doesn't look good. I'm worried now that Anna Walsh isn't going to get justice because of Trooper Proctor being an idiot and all the other stuff going on. And had that not, I don't know, had Proctor's stuff not come up, would he have pled guilty to 2 of the charges still? Still seems like a bit of strategy to me, like from the lawyers. So hello, Smarter Hari. Thanks for joining us. So yeah, there's a little bit more. There's a little bit more to it than what I can tell you because I'm not a lawyer. So I could probably dive into it and look more. But I was waiting for the trial to actually for us to start seeing some of the evidence in his case before I start doing deep dives. Because if you had listened to 2 of the streams I've had now with Defense Diaries and also with Andrea Burkhart, we discussed, how do we as creators avoid railroading people? Because, we might think the person that this case is about is innocent. So it's one thing to say we think this person's innocent, but it's a whole other thing to start surmising who might be the guilty party. Now you're just railroading. You're joining in the trial by media or trial by public, which I don't agree with, as you know. So consciousness of guilt, that's a good one, Kyle. That could be, it could actually come into consciousness of guilt. I don't know if the judge is going to bring it in or how. It depends on how the prosecution plans to bring it in, I guess, as to how the judge might rule on it. But anyway, so yeah, so I want to wait until we get into some of the evidence is presented in trial, and then I can start deep diving, what that evidence means, whether it shows, because I want to compare it with the Karen Reid case when we know it's the same people who collected the evidence in the Walsh case that collected the evidence in Karen Reid's case. So I want to see what they did to his versus what they did to her evidence. We're talking the Google searches and the phone data and all that sort of stuff. So it'll be an interesting exercise once we start seeing that information come out. But I don't want to just go into it without actually having evidence, because that's what the lawyers advise. As creators, we probably should only rely on evidence that's coming out through court rather than pretending we know something that we don't. So just how bad his phone, well, not just that, but also how good or bad they were with each investigation. They might have been really good in their investigation of Walsh, and then we can contrast that with how shitty they were with the Karen Reid investigation or Sandra Birchmore investigation. So there's going to be some interesting deep dives that we can do with the data over the period of time. So his jury is being selected today, so that's all about to kick off, and that's going to give us a lot more information about what has or hasn't gone on in Karen Reid's case regarding these same entities. So that'll be fun. What's up next? Tibby's article about being sued. Let me just find that. Oh no, I closed the tab. Shit. Oh shit. Give me 1 second. Hang on, I got Aiden on the screen. Aiden, where's your article, dude? Be sure it's on TB Daily News. Hang on. Let me get the article. Suing me, yes. Where's the article? But it was announced today. Here we go. Here's the article. So let me show that on the screen for y'all. You probably all read it because I did post it in the comments section. Let's go back here. No, it did it again. A-hole. Can't cover up. All right. I don't know why it's doing. It keeps defaulting back to that video, and I stopped the video. We're done with the video now. Okay, Restream. God damn it. So this is basically Aiden's sort of reaction to being told he's going to be served. Gosh, this website is going to tie things up as well. All right. Tuesday, it was reported that the McAlberts might be suing me and Karen after 3 years of vowing to sue me for reporting the fact that they were responsible for the murder of John O'Keefe. This is all going to tie back to the main topic for today, so it's good for us to just get it out of the way, okay? The witnesses from Karen Reid's high-profile murder case are denouncing her cover-up claims as a vile work of fiction. Eyeing defamation claims. It's not the same as having filed them. So someone did ask me why I said Krusty gave it away. It's because she said last week, I think it was, or just a few days before this, that big news was going to drop and Karen Reid and Total Boy are going to regret everything. That's how I knew. I knew that this PR campaign was coming. So, and there's a lot of lawyers who are also saying, yep, it was a PR campaign, including Alan Jackson, which we'll get to. Still hounded by conspiracy theories months after Karen Reid's acquittal, several witnesses from the high-profile murder case are denouncing Reid's cover-up claims as a vile work of fiction. The outlandish frame job allegations were part of Reid's scheme to defame and wrongly malign prosecution witnesses and evade responsibility for the death of her boyfriend. Blah, blah, blah. And Aiden says, so they haven't sued me. They just filed something in Karen Reid's lawsuit where they are getting sued, for lying in a murder trial and claim that they're going to sue us down the road. They want to move the case to federal court where standards are significantly higher. So if it does go to federal court, what are they looking at? Well, they're looking at bringing the federal authorities into it, aren't they? If they take it to federal court, they're opening the door for the feds, aren't they? So this will be very interesting. So yes, they only did this because Karen Reid was about to drop. So they dropped their PR campaign the day before saying, oh, it's all lies, and putting themselves, they're not going to do shit. Exactly, Joanna. It is exactly, Steph. And here's the thing, AJ's onto it. AJ knows what's going on. So I'll read his that's it, strong leg. Yous are all onto it. You guys are so smart. I'm so proud of my audience because you guys all got your thinking caps on. And you don't type stupid comments like, whoa, that intro sucks, and not press your fast forward buttons. Anyway, so that was Aiden's article. You can read the full article. It's in my comment section. And he did have a lot more to say about the whole article, but I just wanted to brief you on that whole thing because they are going to try and take it to the federal court. I don't know what that opens as far as the federal authorities go, but what I wanted to do today was give you the next bit of news on that note. So let me go over. I'm moving through this a lot quicker than I thought I was going to. Oh no, that's okay because we've got that other thing coming up. All right, that's cool. We got plenty of time. Slow down, Aussie. So let's go back here, and we can close that demo window now, and just do it all in this window so we don't keep restarting that video, which is poo. So the news that hit X today is that Adam Deitch, I think it's Deitch, is running against Michael Morrissey. So share that screen. Let's do this. So we all heard about Josh Levy, right? We all know who Josh Levy is. But this dude here is running against Michael Morrissey. And, okay, what has he got to do with Michael Morrissey? What has he got to do with the Karen Reid case? Or Josh Levy, for that matter? So we heard all about Josh Levy, right? That's the letter exchanges between D.A. Morrissey. Oh, you're all just picking on me. This is a witch hunt and blah, blah, blah. But this dude here is the one who led that investigation. He led the investigation into D.A. Michael Morrissey. Now, I wanted to go over, I'll read the article that is advising us who he is and his role, but I wanted to go into what we already knew about the feds. There's a lot of people who didn't hear the pre-trial hearings leading up to trial 1. There's a lot of people only tuned in during trial 2. So there's a lot of background information here that we need to put together with what Adam is telling us in his very brief statement to the media, but he did give us some hints what to look at. So because my audience is so good with their thinking caps and putting the pieces together here, I thought this would be a great time to run through that stuff that we originally learned through the pre-trial hearings. So let's get to this federal investigation. Hang on, I gotta do this to share that screen. Replace it with this one. All right. He is, no, not that one, because that one was too brief. Share this one instead. Okay. He is actually the lead investigator into the John O'Keefe case, but he was also the prosecutor who prosecuted the CDL scandal that Total Wood covered, if you recall, the licensing scandal. He also prosecuted all the cops involved in the overtime scandal. So those are two stories that we're all familiar with because of Aidan Carney's reporting. So only take cases to trial that they know they can win. Right, but they also work very, very slowly. So I think he says enough here to give us some clues what's actually going to happen. So let's just read through it first, and then I'll tell you what the clues are. So a former prosecutor who directed a federal probe into the state prosecution of Karen Reid is now running to lead the district attorney's office that put her on trial. Adam Deitch, 42, announced Tuesday he is a candidate for the Norfolk District Attorney, representing himself as an outsider who would restore competence, trust, and professionalism to an office embattled by public outcry over its prosecution of Reid and its investigation into the death of Sandra Birchmore, a young pregnant woman. So you can see the little caption there. He directed the federal probe. He was the director of the federal probe. He wasn't just, as Levy was, Josh Levy was a person who was part of that investigation, but this guy led it. So we're going to discover today, what does he know? Because he knows a lot, and it's actually very comforting, A, that he's announcing he's running against the DA, but also B, that he's talking about the Karen Reid case and what he knows about the Karen Reid case. So not every detail, just enough to get us on track. So in an exclusive interview with the Globe, Deitch said he resigned from his dream job as federal prosecutor, sold his condominium in East Boston, and relocated to Quincy to become a candidate for Norfolk DA. All that just to me so he could run against Michael Morrissey. So, oomph. Good on you, fella. The current Norfolk District Attorney, who has served in that role for nearly 15 years, hasn't publicly commented on whether he will seek re-election next year. It's looking like he's actually not, because he hasn't really done much on the campaign front, apparently. So interestingly, Adam says, I'm dedicated to 100% of, I'm dedicating 100% of my time until next November to talking with voters about my forward-thinking vision for the district attorney's office. He's also a Democrat and a first-time political candidate, so that's great that it's another Democrat. We thought if I had thought if a Republican ran that he would just be demonized straight away because of the political climate in the country, but in Massachusetts being a blue-leaning state. So glad to hear it's another Democrat. My perspective, that might be bad news for some of you guys who lean red. I'm sorry. I don't lean red or blue. I don't care. They're all liars in my book. But anyway, my perspective as a federal prosecutor specializing in corruption cases, particularly in Norfolk County, makes me uniquely situated and uniquely qualified for this job in this moment. And I couldn't agree more. As a federal prosecutor and having prosecuted pretty much all of the scandals coming out of Massachusetts, let me just break from the reading for a moment to defer to Joanna. Is this good news, Joanna? Is this guy the right man for the job? Despite the fact that he's a Democrat, let's not bring his political leaning into the equation, but his background and knowledge of all the cases and having prosecuted all of those bad cops, does that make him a good guy for the job? Because the way I see it, and I could be wrong, this is best to hear it from a local, but as an outsider looking in, I think it looks to me like he's prepared to prosecute cops. That's a big plus in the DA, right? He's not going to favor cops. And given the situation with the Karen Reid case, you would think that's someone you want in charge, right? Like in the DA's office, someone who is prepared to prosecute cops. We know that nearly all 50 cops involved in those two scandals, was more than 50, I think it's about 100 cops involved in those scandals. He was the prosecutor. It does have that vibe. Cool. All right. Well, the question is, does it give you guys a good feeling, because you guys live there? It's got to be you guys who are ultimately pleased with it, right? And the more of you that are pleased with it, the more of you that will vote for him to take over that role. So but it's certainly giving me a good vibe that he's prepared to prosecute cops, like no one's above the law kind of thing. So I like that about him. But that doesn't necessarily mean he's a good pick for the locals. So yeah, we'll see. There's also, I forget who it was. Who else is in the audience? Someone else in the audience said they're a local. I forget who it is already, because I've already gone past all of the names. But the other person who said they're a MA local, give us your opinion as well. Tell me what you think about this dude as a choice, and whether he gives you the warm fuzzies or not. Anyway, moving on. He spent more than 6 years as a prosecutor in the U.S. Attorney's Office in Massachusetts and mostly handled public corruption cases. Among them were the prosecutions of former state police troopers who were convicted of rigging commercial driver's license tests in exchange for gifts, and a pair of former state police supervisors who were found guilty in an overtime fraud scheme. He also successfully prosecuted Boston community activist Monica Kennan Grant for fraud. I remember that case. That was only just recently. He said the most meaningful prosecution he handled resulted in the conviction of Steve Waith, a former track and field coach at Northeastern University and elsewhere, who tricked women into sending him nude or semi-nude photos of themselves. The beginning of this case that sticks out to me is the courage of the original victims at Northeastern to come forward, and the strength it took for them to tell their stories about someone who they had trusted, who took advantage of his relationship with them, he said. I believe he's also who was in charge for Sandra Birchmore, for the arrest in Sandra Birchmore's case, though it's not mentioned here. I could be wrong, but I think he also was in charge there. So I have done a quick Google search. We're going to look at that next. But Being on the right side of the Karen Reid case is a good sign, right? Cautiously optimistic. Yeah, that'll be good. Do that. Quincy is a very corrupt town. Well, he's not from Quincy. He's only moved there to run for Norfolk County. So that's a good sign too, isn't it? Smarter Hari is cautiously optimistic. A lot to be discovered. Good news, he's not a local. Exactly, that's what I'm thinking too. Being on the right side of the Reid case, Iron Chef says. Yes, very good thing. Cool. We're all on the same page with that stuff. So, moving on. During the prosecution of Reid and the death of a boyfriend, Boston police officer John O'Keefe, Deitch participated in a parallel federal investigation scrutinizing the case. The highly unusual probe concluded without any criminal charges being filed against any of the principal figures. Interesting, because Karen charges were filed against Karen, so obviously they're not talking about Karen. And he hints on this a little further down here. Morrissey protested the federal investigation, writing in 2023 that it was highly unusual and possibly abusive exercise of power, except that what Morrissey did was the abuse of power, not what they were doing. In June, a jury acquitted Reid of killing O'Keefe. Deitch said the biggest tragedy was that O'Keefe died, and to this moment, there have been no answers. And that's not right. He declined to comment on the federal Reid investigation, yet he said the state investigation into the deaths of O'Keefe and Birchmore, as well as other public corruption cases that originated in Norfolk County, pushed him to enter the race. The death of Birchmore, whose body was found in her Canton apartment, was initially ruled a suicide by Morrissey in the state medical examiner's office. No criminal charges were filed. Then last year, the FBI arrested Matthew Farwell, 40, a former state and police detective, and charged him with strangling her. Federal prosecutors allege Farwell killed Birchmore to prevent her from revealing that he had initiated a relationship with her when she was a minor and had continued the affair into adult years, sometimes meeting her while he was on duty. Farwell has pleaded not guilty. Here's the key sentences. I have seen firsthand what happens when investigators rush to judgment or when charging decisions are made before an investigation is complete. When investigators draw conclusions before they have collected all the evidence, they are taking shortcuts, and those shortcuts lead to innocent people being accused of crimes that the real perpetrators going free. Who is he referring to, I wonder? So we got two hints there that he doesn't think Karen Reid's guilty. He thinks that the people who did it are perhaps getting away with it. So this is all good news. So what this leads me to do is look into what do we know that the feds know. Okay, first of all, the very dude who actually investigated doesn't believe Karen Reid did this. Second of all, he's not telling us much about the investigation, so perhaps that investigation isn't closed after all. So a couple of hints there. Yes, that would be an awesome outcome, Yankee Lorna. That absolutely would be a brilliant outcome. So, he knows all the stuff. He knows all the stuff, all the things. And I'm just wondering about, was it the governor or the attorney general in this case that didn't give them the go-ahead, or were they just waiting? I think they were waiting. I think we got the hints today they were waiting. So on the face of it, we'll put our thinking caps on now. On the face of it, most of the evidence got destroyed. So they didn't have any physical evidence to link those people to the crimes, right? There was that. The house was sold, the dog was gotten rid of, the basement floor was pulled up. So all this physical evidence that they could have moved quickly with was all gone and tainted. And this comes out in Karen Reid's motion that was dropped today. That it left nothing for the feds to get their teeth into. But what they need now, what the feds needed next, was all of the corruption, for them to be testifying on the stand, finishing their testimonies, all this other stuff going on, Proctor's tax coming out. That was the feds dug that up. We know now that that was the feds that dug all that up. They are committed to the public corruption, and that's what this boils down to, the public corruption. This all boils down to public corruption. The DA's office to go after Karen Reid based on based on the shitty investigation, all of the people in his office. So you remember, these were SPDU. Michael Proctor, Tully, all these people are SPDU. They're part of his own office. They're not just police officers who investigate. They actually investigate for the DA. So this is public corruption, that he knew all of this. He knew that the evidence was all destroyed. He knew that what evidence they did have was getting fixed because he helped them fix it, obviously. So this is public corruption. So this is exactly where it's going. Exactly, Joanna. Yeah, the people who took up the floor on the stand. Right. So they needed everyone to be, and this is what comes out in Karen Reid's motion today, or her lawsuit today. So you need to understand what things they can act on. So they can't necessarily prosecute these people for murder. They couldn't prosecute Farwell for murder. They had to prosecute Farwell for all this other public corruption to get to murdering a witness, not necessarily murder. So you can see where the feds' hands are tied in this. They can't necessarily do that side of it, but they can come in on the public corruption, and this is a lot of public corruption. Now we've got all their testimonies, we've got them on record lying, we've got a whole bunch of stuff. So let's move on, because I will outline more of what the feds know and stuff in a second. So Morrissey has not really convened a campaign. He's just done a consult lunch, and maybe they consulted him. Yeah, don't do it because you're already screwed. Obviously, there's other people running as well as Georgina Perkins and Craig McClellan, who are also running. So that's that information. So for those who didn't have the background information of what the feds know, let's watch a couple of things from a couple of pre-trial stuff that we do know about. Yeah, let's do it that way, and then we'll come back to what that is. So let me share. Which one first? Well, this one probably. This one first. Let's do some little revision work here, so we can work out what the feds do know. Now that we've worked out maybe the investigation isn't closed, because if he's not speaking on it, then obviously there's enough for us to assume that obviously he can't speak on it. Why? Because it's an ongoing investigation. So let's move on to some revision work so we can work out what they do know. It's freaking great. And for those of you who have already seen this, I apologize. Go make a cup of tea. But it is good revision work, all right? So bear that in mind.
Sanctions against District Attorney Morrissey, including a request that his office be disqualified from continuing to prosecute this case. I expect that motion will be heard on our next court, and I ask this court to consider what that hearing will look like. That hearing will prominently feature the contents of all of the 8 letters that are at issue here today. The specific content of those letters is one of the grounds that gave rise to our motion for sanctions in the first place. In fact, our motion for sanctions liberally quotes from those letters. And I assume that that is the reason that our motion for sanctions is currently impounded by this court as well. But it is clear from those letters that District Attorney Morrissey is well aware that he's the target of a federal investigation as a result of his conduct in this case. Those letters prove that he knew that, even before the U.S. Attorney ever confirmed that there even was an investigation.
And those motions for sanctions and for the removal.
Sorry, I'm muted. So there you go. He knew that he was being investigated long before the defense found out. He knew that. So there was obviously public corruption on the cards before the defense found out and before these letters, 8 letters, got exchanged during that first trial. So yes, Randy, that's why I'm doing it. I'm making sure that people who missed some of the pre-trial stuff before trial 1 and trial 2 are catching up on what we know. So cover-up's always just as bad as a crime, especially when it involves law enforcement and judges and state police, local police. Right, exactly. So, I mean, and this is looking like RICO, right? Because there's more than one instance now of that corruption, which is one of the primary things that the FBI has to see, or for a RICO case has to be more than one. So, they've been silent about the scandal, right? And he's just coming out the gate, right? He's straight out the gate addressing all the scandals, all the things. So I do like that about him. So yeah, let me just see what else we have here. Yeah, we do have a little bit more.
Maybe with some discovery within the next couple weeks.
That's unbelievable that the feds are investigating the investigators, not the DA himself, according to the DA, but the police officers that, and I guess the detectives that.
Okay, guys, one sec. Shut up for a second and please pay attention. I've got a massive announcement. The 2020
investigated the death of John O'Keefe, and now the results of their investigation will be released to the DA and released to the defense. So if they come up with something, if the U.S. Attorney's Office digs some stuff up, now the defense, Karen Reed's defense, will be able to use that in their case. This is unreal, man. This is unreal what's taking place up there in Dedham.
He's telling us everything.
It's unreal, and we still don't know the exact nature of the letters. They haven't been released. The judge actually had to get the letters from prosecutors, the Commonwealth, and read them. She said, I'm not going to admit a couple of these into evidence, but I will take the other ones and make a ruling at a later time as to whether or not she's going to release them.
Wow.
All right. I thought there was more on Unetti talking about that, but obviously not. So there was, for those who don't know, there was actually an uproar about, was it the judge? I think it was actually Brennan saying that he had that Unetti had talked to the media about this sealed evidence. Because he saw this, but what this was Unetti in a in-stream conference with the judge, and he was just restreaming it. So it caused a bit of an uproar for those who don't know the story, but it caused a bit of an uproar because they were like, oh my God, he went and told the media about this federally sealed stuff, but he was actually talking to the judge. And Vinny was just restreaming it, so that was pretty funny. But anyway, let's move on to the next bit. Let's go over to this tab. Let me just check you all can see that. Right, we're good. So this one is going to be harder to hear, so I'm going to bump the volume up on this. Now this is going to bump up all the tabs. So I have to stop talking and then just press the play button. Because otherwise it's going to bump me up louder and it's going to seem like there's no extra volume. So give me 1 second to do this. Let's get it up to about there. Hopefully it's not too loud. All right, that seems good. Let me just mute myself.
This is
at least one more situation in my remaining minute or so, given the fact that this is curtailed. And this is not in our papers, but obviously it's a complete and probably the most obvious distortion of the facts. The Commonwealth suppressed one of the most obvious pieces of exculpatory evidence in the entire case, and that was a piece of evidence that they know torpedoes their entire case and their theory of this case. And that's Jennifer McCabe's Google search at 2:27 a.m., how long to die in cold. They had her phone at the time of the grand jury. They had her complete extraction of that phone at the time of the grand jury. They had a Celebrite report, Your Honor, at the time of the grand jury, and yet they did not present this evidence. They claim, oh, well, we didn't have the right version of the Celebrite software. That's on them. That's not our fault, certainly not Ms. Reed's fault. That's their fault. Get the right software. If you're going to bring this case, do it the right way. They say their argument is, well, we just didn't have the right software, so we didn't have the information. That's not true. They did have the information. It was sitting in her phone. They just didn't do their job in extracting. And should the Commonwealth once again stand up in some sort of desperate pitch to dispute that time and this critical evidence, the court should note the following. Not only does the Celebrite report confirm the search and the time of that search, not only do our experts confirm the search and the time of that search, but now a Quantico-trained special agent with the FBI's Regional Computer Forensic Lab, in other words, the United States Federal Bureau of Investigation, also specifically confirms that that search was made on Jennifer McCabe's phone, and it was made on or before 2:27 and 40 seconds a.m. on January 29th, 2022. That fact, Your Honor, is no longer open for debate. And none of that was presented before the grand jury.
Oops, forgot I was muted again. So there you go. A Quantico. What's a Quantico trained forensic analyst? What is that? I wanted to go through what that means because for us in Australia, we actually weren't familiar with Quantico. It came up and we're all Googling our little brains out. What the fuck's Quantico? Unless you actually, watch all of these, TV shows about Quantico and stuff. But, right, it's the feds, it's the FBI. So we got a few Americans in the house who know exactly what it is. So I just wanted to just do a quicker overview over to this tab to Quantico, where they've got thousands, not just hundreds, but they have thousands of experts in the laboratory providing forensic analysis support services, technical response, scientific analysis, operational technology, and more. So for anybody thinking that I'm uncovering shit that Quantico doesn't know, think again. Because, America, fuck yeah. Let's go and be dot. Quantico is the gold standard. Thank you, Got Milk for me. These guys know a lot more than I do. I just work with SQL databases, okay, in a business environment. That's all I do. So that's the extent of my knowledge. These guys are trained in forensic. They know what they're talking about. They know what they are studying. They know what the data means. I'm bringing it to your attention and trying to explain it in the elite of experts. Exactly, Iron Chef. I am nothing compared to these guys. These guys have way more resources. They not only have the resources, but they also have their hands on the actual data that was collected. So anything that you guys think I know, you need to multiply that by like 50,000, because these guys have got everything. They've got their hands on the actual extractions, which I don't have. I could make a lot more analysis if I did, but I don't have my hands on that extraction. They do. So they have definitely got a way bigger variety of analysis than I can give you. So there's nothing I'm putting out there in the last few videos that we've covered. Hey, Ducky, how's it going? Good to see you. There's nothing I am putting out there that is new to Quantico, okay? They are the experts of the experts. They are the be-all to end-all, the duck's nuts, right? Exactly. They're the duck's nuts. So, yeah, there's nothing I'm bringing to you that is not already known by the feds. They know that this data has been jimmied. They know that the experts were dishonest. They know that the cops have testified dishonestly. They know that the people Karen's bringing into her lawsuit now were being dishonest. They know that the judge was batting for the prosecution. They know that the judge and Morrissey had most likely had communications about the case. They know everything. They know way more than we do, because it's fucking Quantico, for fuck's sake. And I ain't got nothing on these guys. These guys are, I can't stress enough how experienced they are. They go after like the most serious of hackers and international threats and stuff. You know what I mean? Like these are the be all to end all ducks nuts forensic analysts. So they know more than they're saying. Exactly, Yankee Law Nerd. That's what I'm trying to put across here. So we know the stuff that they've got. We know that what they released to the defense was a hand-selected, it was hand-selected for exculpatory evidence for Karen Read. So what they actually do have is way more than just the exculpatory parts about Karen Read. What they have actually is all the inculpatory parts against D.A. Morrissey and his band Merry Men at the SPDU. So, yes, I do believe it's still ongoing. I believe we got that hint from the media interview that Adam Deach just gave. It sounds like he's still tight-lipped about it. And what does the feds being tight-lipped about an investigation mean? It means it's still ongoing. At the point that it's no longer ongoing, they're free to talk about it. All right. We notice in the interviews with what's the dude's name on Justice Serb TV? He was gonna testify for the defense. I can't think of his name off the top of my head for some reason. It fell out of my head. But chat, quick, help me. What's that dude's name? He was going to testify and judge wouldn't let him. What's his name again? He was also part of the federal investigation anyway. And he's still not able to talk about anything about that. Michael Easter, thank you, Princey. That's the dude. He's still not allowed. He still can't talk about the investigation. So why is that? Why can't these people talk about this investigation? Obviously, because it's still ongoing. Otherwise, they would be telling us what happened or what didn't happen, or that they didn't have enough of evidence for this or whatever. Do you get what I'm saying? The fact that they cannot, yes, that's the dude. Thank you, everyone. Michael Easter. I hope they have the phone taps in place to answer the cloud question which flew past. You can delete your iCloud, but I don't think anyone got a chance to before the feds got it. So the feds have got They actually have Jen's iCloud, but here's the thing with Jen's iCloud. I think the grey key extraction PDF that we were shown as evidence during trial 2 indicates that perhaps someone, not naming any names, of course, Garino or O'Keefe, sorry, Connor Keefe. Sorry, I didn't do that very well, but somebody obviously synced her phone with the iCloud and then did the grey key extraction again, because we see in that PDF we see 3 attempts at the grey key extraction. Let me get that on the screen. Where is that? I do have that here. Did I download that or did I screenshot it? Give me a sec, I'll find it for you. I think I screenshotted it. All right. Give me one sec, because I know I've got it here somewhere. Man, I should have gone through and cleaned some shit up. So I'm not looking at all this old stuff. That was Hyde. And that was... that's about the sidebars. Sorry, guys. Give me one sec, because I know I got it here somewhere. Here we go. Share that. Share that window. Here we go. Look at this. Let me get this. Whoops. Oops. Let me see what you can see on the screen here, because I need to make sure that you can see what I'm looking at. Oh, good. That's a good blown up shot. Okay. So initial access, like getting into the phone, was at 1925. On-device agent was started at 1925. The last time the phone was booted was the 24th of the 1st, right? So this is days before the party. And then it says at 1927, a manual data extraction was requested. The target device was unlocked. Oh no, it's gone off my screen. Why does it freaking do that? Where are we? The target device was unlocked. So this is all at 1900, right? And then at 2100 hours, the file extraction was completed, right? And then on-device agent was uninstalled. Manual data extraction was requested again a second time. And then down here, a minute later, a third time. So interesting, right? 3 extractions. The last iCloud backup was the 2nd of the 2nd at 11:43. These are all UTC time. So if I converted this for you, we would be at 222, 227 for one of these. Let me see which one it was again. This one here converts to 227. Remember I said in the comment section, in my post section, guess what time the extraction was done? Well, the first extraction was done at 227. So so the last backup date, UTC -5. So that indicates that this iCloud backup was synced here before he did any of this. So even if the feds did have Jen's records, they would have had to have had her iCloud backup from prior to the 2nd of the 2nd. What dates the feds were actually investigating Jen McCabe and everybody, I need to go back over the testimony, because I'm pretty sure Alan Jackson said exactly what date, on such and such a date, the other investigators came to your door and you lied to them. Remember that? What was that date? I didn't think to get that video up on the screen so we could check that date. Can one of my super mods track that down for us and post it into Discord while we're talking? Because it'll be interesting just to find out what date were the feds investigating her. What prompted her to give her phone over to be extracted? What was the prompt for that? Was it because the feds were investigating her? Thank you, wonderful Wendy. I'm glad you joined us, and I'm glad you're enjoying the channel. Are these Proctor's doctored messages? Proctor's doctored messages? Which ones? No, we're talking about Jen McCabe's phone. So, Michelle, after the part of the trial where AJ was questioning Jen McCabe about the ice cream truck, I want the date from that bit of video. So if you can actually locate that part of the trial where she's being questioned by AJ, it was definitely Cross. It was definitely AJ saying that she lied. Well, no, I cut some of the testimony out. So I actually did do a lawyer mashup, but I cut out some of the testimony. So, no, it was early when it was the 2nd of the 2nd. That's what this grey key extraction is telling us. It's the 2nd of the 2nd that she handed her phone over. So, when we don't even know it was her phone, like just looking at what Sam is uncovering just in her study of what's going on, looking back over trial testimony and putting pieces together, it actually looks like she didn't give them her phone. She gave them an extraction. That's what it looks like. We don't have any proof to back it up, but it looks like she didn't actually give them the phone. It was before the home visit. You think the home visit was after they already extracted her phone? Is that what you're saying? So that's why I want to look back at what the dates were, because now I've found this document again. It's so hard to find because there's so much evidence in this case. So much was shown through trial 1 and 2. So much, like all day, every day, evidence on the screen, trying to find everything. It's really hard to find the details. But just discovering this again, I never seen that the first time, that they had done multiple extractions on her phone over a period of 3 hours, 4 hours. So that it only just jumped out at me that this is actually what they showed us. So the extraction happened way before the visit. Yes, I think her hubby did it too, or someone. I think that he did the extraction, and then I think that he sat down with someone in law enforcement who does these extractions, and then they doctored her records, and then they gave the extraction over to the police. But if you're looking at this document, it does look like they actually did an event log from her phone. So they actually did do. So you see the Bluetooth and the MAC address here. That looks like they actually did do the extraction, but on the 2nd of the 2nd here, see? The report generation was on the 2nd of the 2nd. So are they using the extraction, opening it with the Celebrite software and generating this report opening it with Grey key and generating this report from the extraction that they were given, which is also showing us an event log, or did they actually have the phone? We can't tell from this information whether they actually had the phone. So what if Higgy took all their phones and did it? I was thinking, actually, Shana, that Brian Albert probably took all their phones. So that's what I'm thinking. I would surmise the feds did a cloud extraction before they interviewed her. I would surmise they had their ducks in a row before they started alerting people that they were investigating them. I'm going to agree with Strongleg on that one. But I just wanted to double check that date. And obviously the mods are crazy searching videos for me. So we can just verify what that date was. So what would they need to attack the time data? Do you need the phone to mess with the search? No, you can do this. Actually, you can take the extraction and put it onto your PC and open it with an SQL app, and you can do it in an SQL app. And in fact, Ian Whiffin's testimony suggests that there was one database, which he only mentions in the first trial. He doesn't bring it up in the second trial. There's one database, which is it's a memory management database, and that was corrupted, which tends to indicate what that would be proof of is that it was done on a computer, and that memory management database didn't match anything on the phone. So when it was transported back to the phone, it was corrupted, so it couldn't be copied into its current state, because the PC has a different memory management system to what the phone has. So it's done on the PC. The little memory management database is updated to the PC's memory management. Then they go to put it back on the phone, and it doesn't have the processing capability to convert it back to the phone. The PC's got that capability, but the phone doesn't. The phone's just a very basic, small app, that doesn't have all of that capability. So when it was put back on the phone, it corrupted that little memory management database. So it sounds to me like it was done on a PC, essentially. So thank you, Josie. Quantico VA is where the headquarters of FBI intelligence analysts and laboratories are, supporting our federal government and its agencies, and those are the gurus. Exactly. So yeah, I'm still keen on working out. I don't think he did, Clayton. I don't think Whiffen did the meddling. I think Whiffen was asked to analyze and come up with a reasonable theory that they could put forth. That I don't think he meddled with it. I think it was meddled with long before Whiffen and Hyde got called. Because remember, they weren't brought into trial until Green found that deleted record. They went off on a mission to find someone who could explain away this record that Green found. This was all done before Whiffen and Hyde even came into the story. So they were not, I don't think Hyde or Whiffen did the meddling. So no, I'm not an expert. As I just finished explaining, Quantico are the experts. If someone's going to testify, it needs to be Quantico, because they're the experts. I just know how SQL databases work. And I got a basic idea how they work on a device too, because I've written a few software applications that use SQL databases on the device. So a couple of little kids games and stuff, nothing major. So but I've written a couple of them. I've had to interact with the SQL, create the SQL, get it to record in knowledge, see what's going on. There's also these other things that Whiffen talked about during his testimony, like the Doppler effect. That was so funny. The Doppler effect, which isn't actually what he described it to be. What he described was if you're developing an app on a device, you might want your app, for example, to only to not be tiltable. So when you tilt your phone, it changes direction. You might want your app to stay vertically. So some of my apps, I really wanted to stay vertical because you can fit the entire game on the screen. Whereas if you turn it on its side, it cuts half your game off the screen. So there's things like that, like interference with or preventing tilting, for example, preventing locking during the game, preventing internet connection during a game for people who want offline games. There's all that sort of stuff, which he described as the Doppler effect, which it's not. So somehow John's phone got opened by the Doppler effect. No, that what he was describing is actually the phone having all of these features and blocking certain things from opening the phone if they're not accompanied by another action, for example. So so you guys are so kind. So yeah, essentially with her cloud, the only way that the feds could have access to her cloud prior to this particular grey key extraction, like we can see with three different attempts at manual data extraction and that last backup date, if they didn't get in there before the 2nd of the 2nd, they've got the same data that was on a phone. They've got the metal data and not the unmeddled data. Does that make sense? So the Alberts have full access to a squad of homicide detectives, yeah, but the defense or the feds have access to a whole fucking Quantico of actual experts in the field. So I think that there's a big difference between a homicide detective and a Quantico federal agent with experience in forensics. So which is why all the data was so freaking hard to follow what was going on, because they didn't know what they were doing. They left traces of their fuckery, so to speak. They left traces of it on the phone because they didn't even know what they were doing that well. So if you had the Quantico experts doing this kind of a cover up, they would have known that this is extra data that is stored in the WAR file. They would have known to cover their tracks that way and empty that WAR file out. They would have known not to just copy and paste the records from other records, or at least the complete track of, if they're going to copy and paste this record, they have to go to XYZ databases and copy it from those as well, which this person who fucked around with their phone obviously didn't know all of the tracks to follow to cover their own fuckery. So the feds visited Jen, thank you, Yankee Law Nerd, in April of 2023. So that was way after. Yeah. A year later. Damn it. See, that will probably answers the question. The feds probably don't have access to her phone extraction prior to this update on the cloud. So everyone's just got the bogus version. Interesting. Nonetheless, what we can determine from the bogus version, just off the records that we could see shown on the screen in court, is that they had access to a lot more than us. And just from what Whiffen and Hyde showed us, there's proof, there's evidence that this shit was tampered with. So feds usually support the state in their prosecution. It was absolutely reversed in this case, and absolutely are not supporting the state in even now. Like according to what Adam Deitch has just told us, still not supporting the state. So all right, Therese, thanks for popping in. Have all good. Have a nice evening. I think it's evening there, isn't it? So there you go. That's what the feds know. They know everything. They know way more than I do. They know that Jen McCabe fiddled with her phone. They know that now. They know that all of the cops lied on the stand. They know who lied. They know to what extent they lied. I'm not sure that the civil case happening so quickly is a benefit to Karen Reid. I think the reason DA Morrissey advised the O'Keeffes to go ahead with their civil suit as quickly as possible is so that stalls the feds for longer. Because while she's still bringing stuff out in the civil case, which she's doing a lot of, while she's still bringing out stuff in the civil case, they're still collecting evidence. The more that comes out in the civil case, the more evidence they're collecting. So we've got trial 1 where they all testified and lied on the stand. So we've got all of that. Now we've got trial 2 where Cox is now brought into it and he's now lied, but I don't know that the feds can act on just lying to the media. I think that his biggest worry is probably on the corruption side of things where the feds are concerned. His biggest worry is encouraging a witness to change their testimony. That's his biggest worry. If that turns out to be true that he did, I don't know. Have they got evidence that he did that? It's probably a little harder to prove. I don't know. But it does bring Cox into the equation. And so that and through trial 2, we've got all their additional lies where they all switched up their testimony. Trial 2, we've also got exposed in trial 2 the extra fuckery with the videos. So remember in trial 1 and also in the original video we've got of Karen Reid's Lexus being reversed out the driveway of John's garage where she bumps into his car. We've got the original footage for that because that was all passed around very early in the piece to Natalie the German and then on to Turtle Boy and then on to Sean McDonough. So I actually got my hands on that original video, not the one that was played in court, but the original one that was handed over to, I think the original one that was handed over to the defense. In the original video, she's got normal beige seats, normal everything's fairly normal colored. Then in trial 1, you can see that they've put a filter over the video, so it looks, I think it might actually be gamma corrected or something like that. Just looking at the artifacts in the metadata, it looks like it could be gamma filters. So we've got that in the original file that the defense was given. Then at trial 1, we've got them dimming it even more so that the snow looks dimmer. That was something that Microdots picked up and made me look into things further. And then by trial 2, we had Colleen, what's her fucking name? Forget her name already. Colleen, whatever her name is, from the IT department. She puts in a request to clarify the footage for the jury, and we end up with Hulk green freaking car seats. So, the feds have got all of that as well. In fact, the feds have, going back to prior to first trial, when the defense first found out the feds were getting involved, they gave all of their files, everything that was given to them in discovery, they gave it to the feds. So the feds have got everything going back to then. So before trial 2 fuckery with all that video footage. So yeah, they're just burying themselves. The more this goes on even with the civil case, and even if the Crawford, thank you, Colleen Crawford, that's who I was thinking of. The more this goes on with the civil case, which is why I think the DA kind of encouraged the O'Keeffes to continue with the civil case like immediately, is because it stalls the feds. But the downside of stalling the feds is okay, they're going to wait for more and more information to come out that they can use in their case, more and more lying on the stand and whatever that they can use in their case. But it also stalls it for Morrissey, who's obviously only got a little bit left before he's not the DA anymore. So he wants to stall that for as long as possible. I don't know if it's better for him that it comes out while he's a DA or if it comes out after he's retired. I mean, obviously everyone retires, they get their pension checks and off they go happy as Larry, because they were not thrown out of office on fraud or public corruption charges, right? Yeah, Colleen, what's the fucking name, Crawford? That's the one. So yeah, so I think that we got a lot of hints just out of these small snippets that we're getting from the FBI, the retired and well, they're both retired, aren't they? Both retired FBI agents who were involved in this. One's the lead investigator, the other one was involved in the investigation. They still can't talk about the investigation. There's a lot of things that they're avoiding in talking about the investigation. I thought the two videos on Justice Served TV with Michael Easter were dead set giveaways, because you didn't hear Michael Easter saying what kinds of things were overlooked by Ian Whiffen, and he damn well knows. He knows as well as I do. No, he knows better than I do because he's actually trained in forensics. I'm not trained in forensic. He knows better than I do what Ian Whiffen overlooked and lied about. Yet when he did that show with Justice Served TV, he never mentioned it. He stuck with criticizing Whiffen and the show and how they did the show and why they did the show, but he didn't get into any of the nuts and bolts, which you would expect him to be doing by now if that federal investigation was all wrapped up and everyone was free to talk about it, right? They can lose their retirement, can they? One will freaking hope so. I mean, it's what's going to happen. He's just going to retire, and then what's left? The meatball connection for me always goes back to Boston Mafia. You know, what's his name? Bulger Gang, the Whitey Bulger Gang. Yes, of course. Of course. And I believe people who say, you know, about the Irish Mafia still operating and it's just under a lot more undercover. I believe in that shit. I believe that shit's still going on. You know why I believe it? Because it's still going on in Australia. We still got freaking, like just the other day, a story came up involving Friendly Geordies. You've probably heard me talk about Geordie before, but you know, he was involved. He was trying to expose our government being in bed with gangsters, basically, and giving them government contracts, like millions of dollars in government contracts and shit, giving them preferential treatment and shit. He was trying to expose that shit, and then they tried to burn his house down. So not the government, but the gangsters tried to burn his house down. So yeah, we still have that problem here in Australia. It's just like so far under wraps. It's like if you bring it up, it's like, oh, that's conspiracy theory from the 90s. That doesn't exist anymore, but it does. It absolutely freaking does. It's deep in Boston, even deep in, yeah, it runs deep, especially in the Boston metropolitan area, South Shore, Somerville. There you go. Yep, and we have the same problem here. Barilaro, that's the one. Le Trepidant. Barilaro is the family we better not name because we'll end up in trouble. Yes, Randy, it is insane what's going on with Geordie. And he's actually gone off the air again because it's still going. It's ongoing. So he found out who it was that torched his house, and so he was trying to expose the fact that the dude that actually did the torching was just the dude that was hired to do it. He's not the dude that ordered it. The dude that ordered it is part of one of these gangs, and he's being protected by Auntie. For those who are not familiar, Auntie is what we call our ABC, Australian Broadcasting Commission. They are protecting the perpetrators. The only way a federal investigation closes is if the target is no longer among the living or there's an indictment. Oh, I see what you're saying. It's not closed. Exactly. Sydney, see, you noticed it too. So he's not free to talk. And it's looking like now Adam Deitch is not free to talk about it either. So are they just not free to talk about any cases? When you listen to Michael Easter talking, he does talk about previous cases he's worked, right? I think he was talking about, well, look, there's so many FBI, ex-FBI actually on YouTube doing shows on their previous cases. So obviously they're allowed to talk about cases once they're over, yet these guys are not. So for me, that's the giveaway, that it's ongoing. So right, Steph, I don't want to get in trouble. The mafia here has many legitimate businesses that make it easier to hide their illegal ones. Exactly, Yankee Law. That's what's happening here. Like that they are hiding behind these businesses that are getting major government contracts, millions of dollars worth of contracts, which is what Geordie was originally trying to expose. Joanna, it's definitely not closed. All right, let's do a vote in the chat. Can I set up a poll? Hang on. Let me do a poll in the chat. Give me 1 second to get there because I wasn't already in there. All right, we're in. Let's do a poll in the chat. Engage with your audience. Start a poll. Question: is the Fed investigation ongoing? Yes or no? There we go. I was going to just say, type a 1 or a 2 in the chat. Well, we might as well just do a poll. So there you go. There's the poll. Yes, we have an auntie, and it's the ABC. So the Australian Broadcasting Commission is not the same as the American Broadcasting Company, or whatever that is, corporation. The Australian Broadcasting Commission is actually our public broadcaster. So we, the taxpayers, actually pay for it. So it's supposed to be non-partisan. It's supposed to be, and it's none of the above. They turned into, so there was this point where ABC turned into mouthpieces for the government instead of holding them accountable. Up to this point, they were trying to hold them accountable, and then there was this flashpoint that changed everything. Now they're just as dirty as everyone else. But so there was this filing cabinet fell off the back of a truck. All right, so you know what fell off the back of a truck means, but they say it literally fell off the back of a truck. So take that however you want it. But in that filing cabinet was a lot of information that was really bad for the government. And ABC started exposing it. They started going through that filing cabinet, and they started going through all the files. And because there was so much in there, it took them a long time. But all they got out was a little bit of just a little bit of fuckery, basically. Nothing major. They just got a little bit out, and then all of a sudden the government was pulling their funding and threatening them and raiding their offices, and it just went freaking nuts. And ever since then, they've just been mouthpieces for the government. They've not been holding the government to account anymore, and they're still charging. I think we pay like, isn't it $10 a year, Michelle, or something? We're all paying, like all Australians are paying $10. Is it a year or a month? I think it's per year for the Australian Broadcasting Commission to be mouthpieces for the government. So now they're just like, they might as well be commercial. They might as well be independent commercial now. So, which is a real pain in the ass. But yes, that's who we call Auntie in Australia. I believe it's closed for Karen as she didn't kill John, but not the Commonwealth and its agents. Right. That's exactly the point. That is the point. And that is why the McAlberts are running PR campaigns trying to get ahead of things like Karen's filing. So has everybody had enough of the readings of Karen's filing today? Like, I don't specifically want to read through it because it's a freaking long document. And I'm already an hour and a half into this and tired of talking. So I don't necessarily want to read it. But if you want to, for the sake of doing something, we can actually play, because a number of lawyers read over it. There was Brother Counsel I watched earlier on reading over the filing, which I found to be very educational about all of the extra laws and things that will come into account in making determinations on that. There's also Peter from Lawyer You Know. He also had his producer read it over. You'll hear it 4 times with me. Yeah, I don't really want to read it, but I will play someone else's stream reading it if you want. Would you like that? We can do that, but there is another video. There is something I wanted to go over. All right, Melanie Little also covered it. My choice would probably be Brothers Counsel, just because they went so far into the extra laws associated with things like Monell case and 1983 cases, and what they would have to prove and how they would have to prove it, other Supreme Court rulings that came into it. So I would probably go with Brother Counsels if we are going to do it. But before we get there, I really wanted to play this other one. Broken Baker read it too. So there you go. You got plenty of options if you want to hear someone reading through it. Peter's stream is pretty straightforward. He leads you into... he gives you the 1,000-foot view from the civil lawyer perspective. But so do, I mean, I can't even draw anything different from Brothers Counsel because they're also civil litigators. So it's sort of the same perspective. It's just, I just found that the Radner Brothers just gave it just a little bit extra, gave us a little bit of extra background research and case law to sort of back up what they were saying. Which I always love the case law, so you know what I'm like. But if I'm going to do it, it's going to be the Radner Brothers, I think. So before I switch over to this video, let's have a look at where the poll is. 93% say yes, it's definitely still ongoing. So there you go. That's our poll. I shall end the poll. There we go. Now, let's get to this other video because I found this most interesting. Because what I found from this is that I think the tides are turning on the McAlberts. They had very much had a little bit of support out there in the public world, especially amongst law enforcement. But I think that is actually changing. And I think that because there's more and more people speaking out about it, right? Let me just find this video because I buried it so freaking deep. Where are we? It's going to take me a minute to find it. It was before I did all my welding tutorials. Oh my God, I should have bookmarked it. Actually, I know the quickest way to find it is in my posts. I'm pretty sure I did a post on it. Posts. There we go. I thought that would be. All right, let's get right back to the start. Get it up on the screen. So this is law enforcement. These are a couple of cops talking about it. But one of them is oh, listen, let me remember who they are. So Larry Ellison is part of the, what's the MAM again? For law enforcement. Minority, I can't remember the name of it. I'll actually pull this information up, but I'll hit the play button and we'll just listen to this. There's a good half an hour of this discussion, so I will stop it regularly and interrupt.
In the interest of a young police officer who lost his life, I think we owe it to that police officer and his family to do a thorough investigation of the Boston Police Department to determine what we knew and what we did about it.
Right, and that's where they always say, you know, it seems like the cover-up is worse than the crime, because that's what people are taking away from this, is that something's being covered up. The truth is not coming out, and that is troubling. You know, let's
police officer accused of lying gets special treatment from the highest levels of the department. That's what a lawsuit obtained by 25 Investigates claims. Investigative reporter Ted Daniel has been working on.
It's buffering, folks. I apologize. We're working in real time here.
Well, no, just to reiterate his point, it's like, okay, if I'm part of the team, if I'm on the Boston Police Department, whatever department I'm on, if you guys can have an investigative branch, something happens to me, I would expect just the common courtesy of like actually getting an investigation from my own department.
Well, here's the problem, and Dr. Bradley, I want you to, because you served at that level on the command structure, is that this is why all of this that has been coming up, right, with OPAT, which is the Office of Police Accountability and Transparency, it's not an independent body, right? It still reports to the mayor and the police commissioner. Unlike Post, in which I served on it, and I'm not touting it as any better, but it's impartial, where once you're appointed, you don't report to anyone. Your findings are independent, and that goes a long way without having the pressure of the politics. And it was designed to keep the politics out of it. I'm not saying that someone wouldn't pick up the phone and call you, but the police commissioner, prior to all this coming out, has had the authority, and there's been cases in which OPAT has sent for referral for officer discipline, and only one out of many that the police commissioner even took any action on. So it's like this toothless tiger, but we're paying for something that people thought was going to be a separate investigation from the Boston Police Internal Affairs, because again, it just goes, can you police your own? And the answer is probably no.
Well, the issue around the Cameron Reed case on Boston PD, first of all, that case was not investigated by Boston PD.
Correct.
However,
it could be
there is nothing precluding or nothing preventing the commissioner from doing a concurrent side investigation because his officer was murdered. And so, and I believe, as a former commander, a member of the command staff, that the state PD, who had the lead on that investigation, would be more than happy to keep our investigators abreast of what they had found because of the fact that our officer was hurt. Now, I don't know, or killed. I don't know exactly what information or what request the BPD made of the state, but I can tell you from my experience, it's not uncommon.
No, we see, to your point, Dr. Bradley, we see joint cooperation when we're doing investigations
we do it all the
across
time.
City lines, right? So it's not, you're right, it's not uncommon. But I think what was uncommon, according to what's been reported and what documents have been revealed, is that the commissioner did have a conversation with Officer Devers, who was a former Canton that came over to BPD, who was in the station there that night when this happened, that prior to her testimony, now that was inappropriate if that took place, and it looks like it did, where he brings her up to have a conversation with her, which she testified under oath that she had this conversation with Police Commissioner Cox. She didn't go into the details about it, but she's a witness in the case. We all know as law enforcement, and he's the top here in the city, you don't talk to witnesses.
Well, first of all, if I were the commissioner, that particular meeting would have never happened.
That's what I'm talking.
All right, but then again,
Even if the intentions were good, right?
and in fairness to Mike, if he said what she said,
Now, fuck being fair to Mike, but I think he should be the commissioner. What do you guys reckon? This dude's got commissioner written all over him, right? I think he just said he was a general, so he clearly has, more integrity than the current commissioner, right? So I vote Dr. William Bradley should be the commissioner. What do you reckon, locals?
said was do the right thing. My question would be, what does that mean?
And that's why the conversation should not happen.
What
right?
does that mean? Because it shouldn't. But if the conversation didn't happen, there would be no room for interpretation. Why? Because it never happened. Right? You know what I mean?
But it's not exactly clear, according to Officer Dever, that she met with the police commissioner.
Yeah.
But then it's not clear that the commissioner acknowledges meeting with Officer Dever. So that's so the truth is in there somewhere, but the public doesn't know it.
Well, here's where because you were former probation officer, Dr. Bradley, and I are former law enforcement, so I think we're putting those hats on. Here's why I give more credibility to Officer Devers that the conversation took place. I have no knowledge that it did, because this was such a high-profile case. She testified under oath that she had this conversation with the police commissioner Cox. That means that, because people are asking why wasn't she charged with perjury. So what that says to me is that the Norfolk County DA's office looked into it, and clearly if she had testified and it didn't take place, that she would have been charged with perjury, because she said under oath, Commissioner.
Are you forgetting who the DA is? Detective Larry Ellison? No shade on you at all, because I respect you heaps, but we all know that the DA of Norfolk County has absolutely zero impulse or motivation to charge anyone with anything, let alone perjury.
Cox said denied it in front of a microphone from the media, which carries no legal consequence. She has legal jeopardy. So I give more weight to her telling the truth than I do the commissioner, and in the documents that came out where she's on his calendar for that day.
Right.
That just backs up her. And I mean, what would be the benefit of her throwing that out there? And then if she's claiming that, now this is where I said where you need a separate and independent body investigating, because the superintendent at the time of Internal Affairs is now the number 2 person in the Boston Police Department. He's the number 2 guy, Phil Owens. That no one would think that it would be appropriate. You have an officer saying that the commissioner met with them, and he's saying that they didn't, that no one took any action to find out whether or not this is true or not, because the standard for untruthfulness.
Well, the public did. We took action and found out that he did. So, but I think he's getting off the point, because I don't think that a federal corruption probe would necessarily have him lying to the media as evidence of anything. Just, the FBI is guilty of it themselves, like diverting the media's attention away from something so that they can continue their investigation or whatever. So that part that where he denied it to the media is not necessarily something that can be held against him, like in a lawsuit or in charges or anything like that. But the fact that he had that meeting with Dever, and she has now testified what that meeting was about. She also talked to the FBI first. Thank you, Linda. Exactly. She already confessed to the FBI that she had that meeting. Then she said on the stand that she had the meeting. So the fact that they now have testimony to corroborate that he had that, to corroborate also that he booked that appointment with her, we now got that in his diary as well as the email about it. So now they've got something to stand on. But the fact that he told the media he didn't, I don't think that's going to be, it's going to be neither here nor there as far as any legal action that can be taken against him.
It's termination. And we're terminating officers for that, under that policy, and now we have it out there in the atmosphere. We need to find out whether or not the commissioner can continue to discipline people in this way if he's not being honest himself. I think that's important, but I haven't heard anything from the mayor. I'm just wondering, is this something that the council would look into? Because it's really all of these lawsuits and everything, it's hurting the credibility of the police department.
Yeah. So the question, would the council look into this? I think the council should look into this. Do I think the council will look into this? I don't think they will.
No,
I don't think they want to get involved in controversial issues.
Which is it?
I think they're just picking their political sides. And I think that's why they don't want to, right? They're just picking their political sides. We've got to support DA Morrissey. That's why they're not doing anything. So all of the things, Joanna, exactly. How many people are shitting their pants today? Not today, Satan. Love the handle. Hopefully they all are. But I mean, we already know they're shitting their pants. That's why they put out the PR statement the day before Karen dropped all of this shit, right? Well, Karen, he's kind of taken a back seat in the limelight, but now Adam, the dude who actually led the investigation, the dude over above Joshua Levy, now he's out on the loose. So we shall see what goes on. He gave us some hints. Don't know if you caught the start of the show, but he's given us hints that there could be some stuff going on. Girl, it runs deep here, especially Boston. Right. So knowing how deep it runs, right, Joanna, the corruption and the Irish mafia stuff, the background of Boston itself, knowing how deep that runs is not really surprising that the council won't do anything about it, right? So it kind of runs parallel with what was the other thing? Oh my God, my brain just went blank. It runs parallel with other officials in Boston, like Maura Healey, for example, and other officials trying to stay out of it, right? Because they've already picked their political affiliations. So not yet, Phoebe, not yet. All right.
Job, which is their job. But I do know, when I was on the council years ago, Andrea Campbell was the chair of the Committee on Public Safety. This is an issue that she would be
on top of.
She would be all over, and should be asking questions and should be getting people in and talking to them on the record. What happened? Why?
Would she have the authority right now as the Attorney General?
Oh, I think as the Attorney General she would. Yeah. But the City Council has the authority to do these types of, and not necessarily, I won't use the word investigations, but a conversation with the police commissioner, with police senior leadership, but they choose not to do that because they don't want the pushback from the administration. They don't want the pushback from their colleagues on the city council. It's easier just to do nothing. Right. When you do nothing, you don't get in trouble. When you do something, then you have a target on your back.
Well, here's the do nothing problem. Now, Dr. Brad, let's say we were both still employed at the city of Boston, and someone came in and lodged a complaint that Dr. Brad and I were untruthful. I'd say, hey, I'm following the same standard. Why are you investigating me and you didn't investigate the accusation against the commissioner? And he's yet going to hand down discipline against me? So now you're giving every employee, not just sworn, but civilian as well, a defense that don't come after me if you're not going to come after.
I'd take it farther. I would say that it's a jeopardy. It put every prosecutorial effort that officer makes in jeopardy, because truthfulness is a critical part of the prosecution case. The officer being truthful is a critical part of the prosecution case. So if I'm, as an attorney, can actually put a doubt in the mind of the people who are reading this.
There
That,
you go.
hey, listen,
Great point.
untruthfulness is plentiful.
It starts
in
at the
Boston
top.
PD.
It starts at the
It
top.
starts at the top. Now it becomes a problem with every officer doing his or her job to prosecute. That's I don't know. That's how I see it.
And you're right, Dr. Bradley, because we know that there's a lot of weight and deference given to police officers when they testify that they're telling the truth against someone who is saying that it didn't happen. And if that is eroded, and that it's always going to be now where people are going to say, hey, wait a minute. Here's documents here that shows that the police commissioners, how do I know that these all...
How about when they're all freaking lying? Like every single officer got up on that stand and lied, and now the police commissioner's lying. How about when they're all lying?
The officers aren't as, they're not lying or untruthful as the police commissioner. And
well, I mean, but that's if the police commissioner is untruthful, because when you start thinking about it, when I'm looking at, I don't know, I wasn't there, but if he's saying, well, the conversation didn't happen, but his ledger is saying, well, the meeting happened. Well, okay, the meeting happened. What happened in that meeting?
But let's add on to that. Not just that the meeting happened, but this person said under oath that it happened, and there were no charges against her, right, for perjuring herself. That to me, then someone should be looking into
I got it.
And that's the part where this council said the city council isn't looking into it, the OPAT isn't looking into it, right?
No one is.
And because the police commissioner, this is where it gets tricky for a post, is the police commissioner is the only top law enforcement in the Commonwealth that is not a police officer.
Yeah.
So he's a civilian, so he doesn't fall in the
come
post jurisdiction.
But Larry, if let's give her, using your logic, that it did happen. Let's say, okay, the meeting did happen, and in the meeting, the police commissioner said, "Do the right thing." What does that mean? Does it mean tell the truth? Does it mean tell a lie? Do the right, what I mean? It could mean either one of them. You know what I mean?
From my experience living in Boston, I've heard that saying
all the time.
Many times.
Yeah.
It can mean be very honest.
Yeah.
Or it can mean protect the institution.
Yes, exactly. So what does it mean?
It means,
This is why the meeting should not have taken place, because again, we have two different interpretations of do the right thing, right? Or we could go with Spike Lee, right? Put more brothers on the wall. So,
okay.
I just say, because it's open for interpretation. This is why I don't historically. Commissioners and folks like that don't think that's a good, especially when it's someone that is scheduled to testify in the trial.
Well, Larry, let me ask you a question. Why wouldn't the chief of staff for the police commissioner, why would she put that on the schedule, or why would the deputy, the superintendent in chief, he would see it on the schedule too? Why wouldn't they go to the commissioner and say, this shouldn't be on the schedule?
Well, again, this goes
That's what
back
I would've
to
done.
this.
But
see, this is what I'm saying. Sometimes, you know what? It's better not to just have all your friends around you. The people who will give you the honest assessment of this is not the right thing to do. And maybe they do, and you still, but if you dispute it or you push back then you own it. But no one's going to say to the police commissioner, oh, yeah, I don't think that's a good idea. Well, most people, Dr. Bradley would have, I would have, but that doesn't seem the people to be around him, because honestly, his chief of staff is someone who I have no confidence in, Nicole Tabb, who was doing these same things when she was the legal counsel for the department under former Commissioner Ed Davis. This is what happens when you recycle. I know Boston likes recycling, but sometimes it's just not good. It's already outlived its usefulness. So I don't think there was any room. And now everyone's getting caught up in this. And even if what they're saying is the truth, it's like it's all suspect now, because it didn't come out. Well, you're just making that up now. It's like the Epstein files, right?
Look at his face. It's like the Epstein files, right? Yep. So I just want to move on in the conversation to I didn't actually pick the timing.
Good morning, caller. Welcome to the round table.
Good morning. Yeah, I have a question.
No, that was it. That was it. So tell the truth, but don't be smashing on women, dude. I agree, Joanna. So that was an interesting conversation, and these are all law enforcement. So That's right. So moving on, what was last on my list? Doop-a-doop-a-doop-a-doop. Oh yeah, Karen's lawsuit. All right. Well, actually, you know what? I think Turtle Boy's about to go live. Let me just check. I think Turtle Boy's about to go live. And he's probably going to go over the lawsuit. But the interesting thing about the lawsuit, which I wanted to finish it with, was Alan Jackson's statement. Can I find it? Alan Jackson's statement. Let me finish up with Alan Jackson's statement because it was very interesting what he had to say, which was pretty much the same thing that I was thinking until he said it. I mean, Jesus, what he said is like, lay back and have a cigarette afterwards because it was good. Let's read Alan Jackson's statement because it was very interesting. So Ted Daniels got this from Alan Jackson. Today's filing speaks for itself. It's a meticulously documented civil action grounded in evidence, law, and the Constitution. For more than 3 years, Karen Read was dragged through a baseless criminal prosecution engineered by individuals who abused their authority, manipulated the investigative process, and trampled her rights. Our complaint lays out in stark detail the malicious prosecution, the conspiracy, the civil rights violations, and the intentional misconduct that these defendants visited upon an innocent woman. If these defendants want to answer for that under oath, we welcome it. Do it. What we will not do is legitimize a threat to file some imaginary defamation case. That threat is nothing more than a desperate attempt by these defendants to distract the public from the very real legal jeopardy they now face. When people start waving around defamation claims to mask their own legal troubles, it tells you everything you need to know. They don't want sunlight, they want silence. Karen Read spent years fighting for her freedom against a corrupted investigation. Now she is fighting for accountability. And unlike the criminal case, this time the defendants don't get to hide behind badges, back-channel favors, or manufactured narratives. They will have to answer in court. They will have to answer in a court of law for every lie, every omission, every manipulated report, and every constitutional violation they committed. Karen Read is not backing down. Our team is not backing down. Accountability is coming, and these defendants can threaten all the phantom lawsuits they want, but the truth doesn't flinch. And then there is one more that I just wanted to finish up with, which is a comment by Aidan Carney. For all those people who think he's against Karen Read now, you know, they've got their personal issues, but he's not against the fight that we originally started. He says, this is why Alan Jackson gets paid the big bucks. They are out for blood. And I agree with him. This is where I think the feds get the rest of the information that they're missing. Because remember, Team Read are free to investigate. They're free to hire investigators. They're free to hire private investigators. They're free to do what they need to do for this case. The feds aren't necessarily that free. The feds are still tied by red tape as to what they can and can't do. As we discussed earlier, they can't bring murder charges, for example. So the feds are really tied to what they are allowed to do as a federal institution, whereas a private citizen is not tied to those same rules. So this is where Team Read become useful to the feds to help them with investigations they necessarily can't do themselves by law. So Aidan goes on, his client was wrongfully charged with murder. She lost her house, her car, and a job. The people who murdered John O'Keefe and framed her were treated with kids' gloves and allowed to blatantly lie under oath with zero consequences. Yesterday, they announced that they might be suing her and Turtle Boy for defamation in an attempt to scare us. This phantom lawsuit had the exact opposite effect. I hope the McAlberts like court because they're going to be spending the better part of the next decade inside one after being sued by Karen and then me. Let's fuck. So there you go. Aiden is not necessarily against supporting Karen Reid, and he still believes, as we all do, that Officer John O'Keefe hasn't got justice yet. So I just wanted that to be the last word, because a lot of people coming at me sideways going, well, Karen Reid's a CUNT and all this stuff, and it's like, yeah, well, you're going overboard now, because that's not necessarily what those of us who supported Karen Reid think about Karen Reid. Her personality had nothing to do with it. She can be whatever the hell she wants to be. In fact, I don't care. After what she's been through, she's probably turned into she's probably got the least amount of trust for everyone and anything, and has gone into a shell to protect herself. I have absolutely no. I'm not going to hold any of that against her, because these are normal reactions that someone who's been under attack for 3 years for a crime they didn't commit is going to go through. Now, fair enough, TB's a much stronger person, and he's not having that mental reaction that I'm describing here. So he's a much different personality, and he's been under the clamp for a period of time, and he might actually lose his freedom as well. But he's a different personality. I believe that the trauma that Karen went through, first finding her boyfriend dead on the front lawn and then being framed by these people and then losing everything that he describes here, is she's just a different personality. And if she goes into her shell and trusts people less, I absolutely do not hold that against her. That is a natural reaction for a human being. It might not be TB's natural reaction, or it might not be someone else's natural reaction. But for me personally, I feel like, yeah, that's probably a natural reaction. I had this reaction with just things going on in my family. I've like just walked away from it all. Like, I would rather not have anything to do with them if that's the way they want to behave. So it's certainly not a trauma thing that she's been through, but I'm just giving an example where it takes different personalities. And right, it's fight or flight. Well, I feel like Karen's got a fight reaction. I just feel like she goes about it differently. Let's just say it that way. TB's reaction is, speak on it, get it out, tell the masses. He's got a very public facing personality, where I don't think Karen has. I mean, the fact that she's been forced into the public it doesn't match her personality. I don't think she wants to be in the public eye. I think that that's been probably the biggest challenge for her, is being forced into the public eye where she doesn't really want to be. Whereas TB's that totally opposite personality. He's happy to be in the public eye. He wants to be in the public eye. He wants it all to be told to the public. So they're just different personalities. And I have no dramas that they have a drama with each other. That's got nothing to do with me, and it should have nothing to do with any of us. I just wanted people to know that he's still in this fight. He is still very much on board with this fight, regardless of the personal issues that they've got between them. And I wanted you to see it in his own words. He's very much still on board with this fight, and we're going to keep fighting it. We're not going to stop. So now it's time to boot you all over to his live stream. I got to find it first. Where the hell where's that setting? I think I go edit, customization, not details. Customization, redirect. I'm going to send you all over to Turtle Boys Live because I know he's going to go through Karen's motion. That saves me having to do it. Here we are. Hit the save button. And he is live. So you're probably still at the start of his show doing his intro at the moment. People complain about my intro being long. How long is his intro? It's bloody long. So everybody have a great evening. I'm glad you all got something out of tonight. Remember, the Fed investigation is far from over, and that's what we can take away from this. And they know a lot more than all of us do, including myself. Just because I know a little bit of SQL doesn't mean that I know what they know, because I don't have my hands on the original extractions. So everybody enjoy Turtle Boy tonight, and I will see you all on the next stream. Be good. Love you all. Thanks for dropping by. Bye.